AskReddit by UP again. For world travelers, what is the country with the nicest people, and what is the country with the meanest? I feel like men and women may have very different experiences in some countries. India, for example. I found it very friendly, respectful as a big tall western man, but I'd not want my wife or daughters traveling alone there. Different races have different experiences too. Went to Montreal once. Just got to the city and stopped in front of a street kiosk with a city map. Within a couple of minutes of staring at it, a woman approached us and asked if we needed help finding anything. She was local. English, but with a French accent. I was so confused and startled by this random act of kindness that my initial thought was she was setting us up for something, and I started looking behind my shoulder. The concept of a stranger helping us out for no particular reason was so alien to us that we were on guard for something that never happened. Turns out, people are just nice there and we weren't used to seeing it. That happened to us in an subway station, a place where no one gives a fuck about anything happening around them. Definitely caught me by surprise. Bosnia was a hugely friendly and welcoming place. I agree. I'll never forget on my flight from Brussels to Sarajevo, which was mostly Bosnians flying home as far as I could tell, the lady beside me opened a pack of nuts and then offered me, a complete stranger, a nut. Later in the flight, as much as I tried not to, I passed out from exhaustion and dropped my phone, and I hadn't noticed until a nice Bosnian man handed it to me. This was all before I had even stepped foot in Bosnia. This highly depends on who you are. Race, gender, ethnicity, nationality play a huge role. I was talking about this with someone just a few hours ago. She is a Russian living in a building with a lot of Ukrainians, in another country in Eastern Europe, and always speaks English and as little as possible around them so they don't realize she's Russian. Just to avoid the awkward discussions and having to explain constantly that she doesn't agree with the politics there. I'm Latino. Germans treated me terribly. Malaysians loved me and were all super nice. I don't think that people realize how differently people treat you depending on race and or color. Most Irish people and Japanese are welcoming and humble. When I went to Vietnam, a vendor slapped my hand for giving the wrong amount of money. Island by far for me too. My mother-in-law was even asked out to dinner by a local gentleman in the countryside we were staying at. Surprisingly to most people, everyone we interacted with in Paris was nice as heck. Nicest people, Ireland. Went there last June and they're not a stressful bunch, I confirm. You should really add an "are you a man or a woman, and do you travel alone" criterion to your question. And, also useful, whether we visited the capital or another major city, or the rest of the country. Very different experiences. Edit, and, aside from everything else everyone added to this comment, how well off we look. Looking a certain way may make you more of a target everywhere, but it also gets you better service and nicer interactions consistently. Woman, frequently traveling alone until the age of 31. Less so afterwards. Nicest people I've met, Denmark. Mixed bag but overwhelmingly good, Paris and all over Italy. Overwhelmingly nice, Greece and the rest of France. Nice people, but didn't feel too safe to stray off the main streets in the center, Belgrade. Also race, skin color. I had a great time in Hungary, but a fake non-white people would be treated differently. I'm French, not from Paris. I haven't been all around the world yet, but so far, the nicest people I met were Americans. All over the East Coast, from Nick to Key West, I met a lot of really outgoing and friendly people, always willing to help out or eager to chat. And the meanest, I'd say Italians. I always felt like they were a little rude. When traveling around Canada and the US, there is really no difference with the average person. They are basically all friendly. Philippines is very friendly to travelers. The rudest I'd say were France and Belgium. I honestly can't say I was really personally impacted by that, but coming from Canada it was quite shocking to see how rude some service staff could be to customers. Did you say bonjour to them? If you don't, they will think you're rude for ordering them around. It's Taiwan, but it's mostly other Asians who go there and they aren't on Reddit, so it's not getting any upvotes. I really enjoyed Taiwan. Has a lot to offer for an island of its size. Thailand. Nicest people. Been to 55 countries. Nicest. Turkey, Philippines, Ireland. Meanest. Egypt, tout overload, India, to each other. All were worth going to. Island equals nicest. I was surprised as I'm English, but everyone was very friendly. France equals rudest. Edit, runners up for nicest, Greece. Deleted. Morocco for both. Had some of the most obnoxious dumbuses harass us, but on the other hand had the one of the best meals of my life offered for free by the nicest strangers I've ever met. One Ramadan there. I prefer to remember the second, but I can see how others would not. And that'd be every bit as reasonable. Morocco is full of switching personalities. If you're a white man on your own, it's constant harassment to buy drugs and other nonsense. If you're a woman or a group of women, it's simply open season for harassment. If you're there as a family, everyone is as nice as pie. Friendliest country, unironically Iran or Afghanistan. You get invited for dinner almost every day. People are eager to help you, and they take a personal pride in travelers' experience of their country. You feel looked after like a beloved relative. Unfriendliest may be China, but that can be related to language barrier as well. I found many mainland Chinese people to be incredibly rude as well. I, from the US, visited a couple times back when I was more or less conversationally fluent, and they were still rude as hell, so I don't think it was just a language issue. It seemed to be more of a thing with middle-aged and older people. The younger folks I met there were much nicer. The nicest is definitely North Korea. The government even assigns minders, so you're never lonely. Well, you can't complain. Nicest, Brazil, and generally South America. Meanest, not so much meanest, but lot of Germans have this passive-aggressive vibe. Personally, I think that Kazakhstan's people are very friendly. On the other hand, Estonians are a bit colder, especially to strangers. A Kazakh family at my church was so hospitable that I learned I could only stop by if I had an excuse ready, that I was running late for a dentist appointment or other engagement. It took me 3-4 slow-witted visits of being dragged inside and forced to eat a delicious meal and stay 4 hours when, for example, I was just there to pick up my children from a play date or drop something off. Lovely, kind, warm people. This might sound strange, but I find Americans the nicest. I mean, I suppose it depends where, but in general you are all such a welcoming, happy bunch. It makes me feel uncomfortable as a moody Brit when you engage me in conversation and I'm like, hey, alright, hi. Is that really so strange? As far as I'm concerned, most Europeans who traveled to America loved the people. I certainly did. They're so upbeat, talkative and nice. Nicest people, by far, Uzbekistan. They were very poor but so hospitable they'd give their last bit of food to their guests. Genuine, kind and down to earth. Nicest? Easily Canada, some very nice people up that way. Meanest was easily Germany, though I did find their rudeness to be almost comical, haha. I still like them though and appreciate their blunt manner. Berlin? Yeah, they're very blunt. I don't necessarily like people being that blunt, and I'm German myself. I lived in Berlin for 5 years and hated it there. I had a really good experience overall in France. In Paris, one gentleman was so kind I'll always remember him. As a woman, Italy was rough. Constantly harassed by male waiters to come to their restaurant. When I said in thank you, they would hurl insults at me very aggressively. One group of men in Italy actually shouted lesbian at me when I didn't stop to talk to them after they catcalled me on the streets. I would rank the nicest folks in El Salvador, Japan, Thailand and Denmark. Rudest, possibly Belgium, but I was only in Brussels and sick and had trouble navigating the healthcare system. Not so much rude as just not friendly. Probably not a good sample, though. Irish, Americans, and Brits are all very friendly people, and accommodating when you're a tourist. Most recently, felt very welcome on the central coast of California and into Santa Barbara. In fact, most places we went to greeted you with a welcome in. I'm Belgian and my experience in Brussels is the same. I don't feel welcome there either. Come to Flanders, we will treat you better, like Shawn Mendes. Nicest people Philippines, yet to meet anyone that isn't kind or welcoming. Meanest people Russia, not everyone, but few people seem to care about anything at all, strange. I've worked with lots of Filipinos, not in the Philippines, and they're always nice. They also know how to party. Go to an event they're hosting and there's food for days.